Pardon me while I have a strange interlude.
There is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art.
Along the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome back, my friends, to the AP Strange Show. I am your host, AP Strange. This is my show, and today's show is brought to you by Mercury Gatorade, because no matter what the astrological weather is out there, whether it's rough or whether it's calm, you want to stay hydrated and you want to make sure you have enough electrolytes. So get yourself some Mercury Gatorade for all of your astrological transitions. And tonight on the show, this is going to be a fun one. I have a magician on the show tonight, a stage magician and an artist, and someone who considers both of those things kind of the same thing. And that's something we're going to unpack tonight. His name is Joe Ledoux. He's based more or less in Boston, in Massachusetts, throughout Massachusetts, and does a lot of performances around here. He's a man who once cast a spell and conjured UFOs, fairies, and sea serpents off just outside of Boston. And he brings a lot of wonder and magic to the world through his love of magic, art, and skateboarding. And he's seems like a really interesting guy. We've been chatting a little bit just now, and excited to get into it. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. This is the first time it seems like someone actually knows what I do.
Well, I do my homework. Like I try to tell people, people are like, "Oh, what's a good episode of your show?" And I'm like, "They're all good." I mean, I look for people that I think are interesting to have on.
Well, thanks
um,
so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
yeah, it is going to be fun. Because I mean, I was looking. I just for listeners' background, you had an event happening in Boston that caught my attention, and I'm like, oh man, well, I can't go to that event, but I do want to follow this guy. And then I looked into you more and uh, found that there's a lot of overlap because I mean, listeners to the show know that I'm a big geek for stage magic, but kind of your fusion of stage magic and fine art and all of that is seems like a really interesting story. And then you add skateboarding to the mix and it's just like, okay, well, this guy's really unique. So I'm kind of curious. I know one of the zines you sent me kind of explores the background with the skateboarding. um, so I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about your journey from skateboarding to magic.
Yeah, sure. So when I was a kid and I would see people skateboard, I remember just seeing them move without putting their foot down. And I had a skateboard when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and my sister would have her friend over, and he was a skateboarder, and he would get on my board and not even push with his foot and be able to get it to roll and move around. And it just seemed like magic to me, the way that the board was animating around. Um, and then as I got older, there was sort of this time in my life, probably around fifth or sixth grade, where everybody had skateboards, and my parents, I asked them if I could get one and they got me one. And there was this trick that people would talk about at recess where it's called an ollie impossible, and you would put your foot all the way on the back and sort of scoop with your back foot the board in a vertical 360 and then land back on it. And none of us knew if it was possible because there was the internet, but not every household had one. And my parents, we didn't have the internet where I lived. And I would sit and try it every day and wonder, would it be possible to actually do this? Is it a myth? Is this trick something real? And at the same time, I had also been in love with magic and I was trying magic tricks. I had seen a magician make a candle disappear on TV where he wrapped a silk around it. And I was grabbing my mom's candle and trying to like shove it down my sleeve, trying to shove it around like a countertop and just like wrap the silk around the candle and then make it disappear. And I couldn't figure it out. And I ordered the candle and I found out it was a gimmicked candle. And I felt like that ability to believe that I could really make it disappear with my own creativity, I was losing that. Almost like the martial arts, like if you're not chopping through real bricks and you're using like pre-cracked ones, if you're actually
Mm.
using real bricks, you'll be a lot stronger. And I wanted my magic to be strong. So I landed the Ollie Impossible on the skateboard one day and I was like, this is more magical. This is your brain trying to do something impossible and actually do it, where the tricks I'm getting from the magicians are fraudulent and kind of destroying that aspect of myself. So I saw the skateboarding as sleight of feet and I researched it and found out that the Polynesian chiefs, the first surfers, they would pray for the big waves, and the ones that were the best surfers were the head chiefs. So I started to look at the connections of magic and surfing, and then looking at skateboarding. And when a kickflip was invented, people didn't know how it was invented, so they called it a magic flip. And then
Mhm.
it just kind of dawned on me that, skateboarding was basically sleight of feet and magic, and it connected in this kind of mystical sense, to something more spiritual. And then I decided to write the book.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of thing where the magic of discovery is a lot of it, because it's like you really do have to practice at uh, at both skateboarding and magic tricks, or illusions, or sleight of hand, to get good at it, and then the magical moment where you actually accomplish it is revelatory in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Um,
that real when you land like a skateboard trick for the first time, there's like this ecstasy. Like skateboarders talk about it, this rush, and it's just the best feeling in the world. And I think that happens also like with magic, like when you are practicing sleight of hand and you can do the coin roll through the fingers where it doesn't fall and you get it to go around once. There's that feeling. So yeah, I do think that sleight of hand and sleight of feet are, with the skateboarding, they're very, very similar in kind of the mechanics and the thinking. And then they also, magic and skateboarding go a lot deeper than that as well. If you go back to the roots of skateboarding too, they connect. I mean, sorry, of magic. The roots of magic go back to shamanism. So, you can follow either thread, but I think that on a secular level, they're magical, and on a spiritual level, both art forms are magical too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think people like to make a distinction between stage magic and like ritual magic, or the spooky kind of magic, or the more spiritual end of magic. But really, they don't need to be distinct, as you say. Like they are tied up together. Um, Shamanistic traditions do this. I know there's a writer, George Hansen, that had written about it. He wrote this book, The Trickster and the Paranormal, and he talks about the sham in shamanism, where shamans use like sleight of hand as a means to an end, to kind of direct people, or or to as a way of like priming the pump for the actual magic that they're doing, um, and it's kind of part of it. So
Yeah, I had heard that there would be sort of doctors like that in a shamanistic sense that would secretly have like feathers in their mouth, and they would bite their tongues to get the feathers all bloody, and then go to suck out the disease on someone's arm or something and then spit the bloody feathers out. So they were using sleight of hand and trickery, but they're doing it so that the placebo and that the person watching it, it would seem real in their mind. And at the same time, the shaman would probably be under some kind of hallucinogenic and tapping into the spirit world. And it wasn't that they didn't believe it, but they would be trying to make it real for the person that they're healing because they're not in the same reality. So in a sense, they're acting out the spiritual reality that they're in to make it real for the witnesser to heal them.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, having that kind of effect, whether it's a placebo effect or psychosomatic, that that is still just kind of imposing your will upon reality, and by virtue of that, changing it. So
Yeah.
it's pretty miraculous in and of itself. So, so I mean, do, was I understanding correctly before we started recording? You trained with people in shamanistic traditions to learn some of your magic.
So I'm part of the McBride Magic and Mystery School in Las Vegas, and it's one of the best magic schools in the world. Jeff brought David Copperfield in to teach us. He gets a lot of the top magicians in the world. We meet every Monday on Zoom, and I've been taking classes there for like 8 or 9 years every Monday. And also in person when he's traveling, I've met up with him. I met him in LA and he became my magic teacher. It's like I felt lost living out in LA, studying screenwriting, and I had graduated from college and sort of felt lost. And I wrote to Jeff, and it's like the teacher, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and then all of a sudden he wrote back, told me to be his guest at the Magic Castle. And then when I met him, he told me that you can't give a gift that you don't have. And he said, a magician that doesn't believe in magic is like a doctor that doesn't believe in medicine. And you need to go have real magical experiences and study with real magicians so that you can give your audience magic. So he sent me to this place called Twilight Covening. It's in the Berkshires, not too far from Boston. I mean, I feel like it was like maybe an hour drive or something. And it was on this mountaintop. I think it's like a YMCA camp on top of this mountain. And it's basically like Burning Man, but here. And you pick what tribe you want to go with. There's people maybe doing tarot cards, maybe there's a Native American group, maybe there is a Buddhist group. There's all different groups and tribes, and I went with the shaman group. And they basically do an introduction to shamanism where you find your power animal and you do like journeying, and then everybody brings a vegetable and they put it in this giant cauldron, and then everybody at night eats from the soup and puts a blindfold on, and then you're brought out into the woods, and then this particular instance, because it's different every time they do it, there was little lights that you'd follow through the woods, and there would be different deities. Like, one of the people that I encountered was a phoenix, and they had this sort of ashes on the ground that they sort of rubbed, and then there was red flames under the ash, and they kind of told the story. And some of them would perform magic, and you would encounter different creatures throughout the woods that would give you these little wisdom tales. And I came back from that experience different.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, so I mean that really is. I mean, I haven't seen your performances, but reading about them and seeing what the philosophy is behind it, because you have some nice little like compilation reels that you have on your website. Um, it is about kind of melding the fine art and stage magic sort of thing into a cohesive, like full immersive magical experience that transcends just illusion and sleight of hand or art, and kind of brings the audience in as part of it, because you kind of have it set up in a gallery where you're surrounded by your art as well. um, so it seems to me to be like an immersive experience where the audience is almost part of the show, and kind of bringing real magic, as it were, to the stage.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot
Yeah,
on. Everything that
right.
you said, I would agree with. I definitely like to use that framework. there's two types of audiences, those that come to remember and those that come to forget. And usually alcohol is the determining factor. So I started looking for venues where there's nothing wrong with Sweet Caroline and alcohol and glitter and fireworks. I'm very philosophical, so when I come home or at the end of the day, I like to put just a TV show on and zone out and watch some entertainment and laugh because I think we need both of them in balance to have a healthy life.
Mhm.
And I just knew with my life that I was unhappy as a performer because at heart, I'm an artist. And my gift would be to give people not the entertainment, which I think we do need entertainment, but I wanted to give people art and meaningful experiences where people were coming to remember and not forget their troubles. So I looked at the art gallery and I was like, well, I went to Mass Art and I was unhappy doing a lot of the corporate and entertainment stuff I was doing. Why don't I just flip flop it and do have my paintings up, do them on art galleries, bring my skateboarding back into my life and do magic with that, and just really be myself, be vulnerable, be honest. Ralph Bakshi is one of my mentors. He has a lot to do with where I'm coming from with being real and the Ashcan school artists, how they were sick of painting staged, beautiful Disney models and studios, and they went out and painted the construction workers on the street. It was all
Yeah.
inspired by Walt Whitman and looking for truth. So I started to tell truthful stories about my life and go unscripted at moments in the performances, even have people just grab things and throw them in a hat and put jazz music on and see if I could create magic on the spot. And show animated films between tricks and sort of make these artistic happenings. And with the fine art framework, it wouldn't be like I was perfecting the same show over and over and over. I could try out new things and maybe fail. Tell the
Mhm.
audience it's the first time I'm going to try something where, like, if you're doing a casino, you have to have a recorded track so that it's timed perfectly. Because if you go a minute or two late, they'll start charging you for that amount of time that people could be playing the slot machines. So it's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to be in that kind of framework. I mean, I did stuff like that, not in casinos, but I did a lot of corporate work. And it just took me a long time to realize like this isn't who I am. Like I know people that are entertainers and they're great actors and these are the people that need to be doing these things. And when I started doing it in the skateboard shops and the art galleries and being myself, I started making friends and real relationships. It's like when Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss and doors will open where there were only walls.
Yeah, I guess so. And well, the fact that you're mentored by Ralph Bakshi is pretty amazing. How did you come to meet him?
Oh God, I don't know if we have time for it. So when I first met him, I was in LA and he had a book coming out. So I went with my partner Ashley to go to his book signing. And the first time you meet somebody famous, I noticed they always do this to you. So by the time I actually got up to him, he's like, "Oh, nice to meet you. Have you met my daughter Victoria?" And then sent me over to meet Victoria because he wants to see the other people coming in, maybe sell his
Right.
paintings, keep talking. He doesn't want to get caught up with this fan kid that just loves his work.
Yeah.
And he also has friends he knows coming that he probably wants to talk to. But I've had several people where, you go and meet people and they'll immediately do that technique to be able to keep schmoozing and talking, and keep the crowd going in. So I got to talk to him for like 2 seconds. And then he was having a show in New York and I had written to him saying like I'd like to meet up with you and I would love to talk about art and I was just finding his email through his website at the time and I was not getting a response. So I forgot to mention I had emailed him through his website when I was at Mass Art and he actually wrote back to me and I asked him, what is the most important thing you try and do with your art? And he said, the most important thing I try to do with my art is be completely pure with what I think a situation means, which has kept me completely pure but poor. And I did a whole presentation on his films and shared the quote with the Mass Art students, which is
Yeah.
probably not what the art teachers wanted to hear and the students.
Right.
But he's had a successful career. I mean, he said that, but he he did make a lot of money and he has a nice house on New Mexico, but I get where he's coming from, you know. And like after that I went to emailed him to try and meet up with him in New York, and my partner went with me. So I waited in line for like an hour to talk with him, and he's like, are you okay?" When I finally like got up to talk to him, I was like, "Hey Ralph, I emailed you," and he's like asking me if I'm okay. And then I think I was kind of like, what do you mean? And my partner Ashley came over because she could see that Ralph almost looked like angry. And
Yeah.
he goes, "Oh my God, you're normal. I didn't know you were normal." I don't know why, if he thought I was like hitting on him or trying to ask him for a date, or if he thought I was
Right.
like coming on too strong. But when he saw that I was like in a stable relationship, or for whatever reason, when Ashley came over, he goes, "Oh my God, you're normal. I didn't know you're normal. Send me another email. I'll respond." And then he goes, he goes to Ashley, "Watch after him, look after him." So then we went outside, and honestly, I started crying because he's like my favorite artist. And the kind, even though it kind of went okay, the kind of like he's so honest. He'll tell you if he doesn't like you, that kind of like
Mhm.
encounter, I was just like not what I was expecting. And Ashley's like, "Well, he said to email him again." I'm like on the sidewalk, all trying to like just like keep it together. Um, so then he was doing another show in Canada, and I actually did a fundraiser where I had people over and I performed magic and sold all my paintings to get money to pay to get a bus to go to Ottawa and a hotel. And I went and saw him there, and I started talking to him in line, and at this point he knew who I was. And I said, "I'd love to study with you." And he goes, "Well, you can't. I'm too old." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Well," and he's like, "What is it that you want, Joe?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe just your phone number so we could talk about art and kind of." He's like, "Go talk to my son Eddie. He'll give you my phone number." So I went over to talk to Eddie, and Eddie goes, "Can you remind me?" He looked shocked, like why he said to give you his phone number. And I
Mm.
said, "Well, I'm a magician." We talked, and then he told me to come over here and get it from you. So he wrote down his email, and then he said his personal email, and then said, "Here's his phone number. I'd recommend emailing him first." So I just called him one day, and he goes, "How the hell did you get my number?" And I was like, "You told me to get it from your son." And he's like cracking up. And, we talked for a while, and I'd start calling him on different days. Sometimes, I talk to him longer. Sometimes he'd be like, "Call me another day, you'll get a different answer," and hang up. Like, it's like some
Yeah,
days were
yeah.
good, some were bad. And then I started emailing him and sending him, just like little gifts every now and then. I wanted to buy one of his paintings and said, "Hey, Ralph, can I purchase one of your paintings, but you put me on a payment plan?" And he goes, "Just send me your book and I'll mail you one as a trade." So I sent him my skateboard zine. I'm not sure if I sent you that one. And he
Yeah.
just sent me a drawing that he did, which I thought was just crazy. Um, and then he gave me feedback on one of my performances, and I have a quote about it on my website. Um, and I started showing him my paintings, and he gave me feedback on them, and then he passed down things to me. Norman Rockwell showed him, and the last time I talked to him, maybe a few weeks ago, I showed him an animation pitch I'm working on, and he told me to try pitching it to toy companies. So he's like my biggest influence, and he's been giving me an art education to some degree and feedback on my art. And yeah, he's one of my favorite artists in the world, and I consider him like a mentor in my life.
Yeah, that is excellent. So just being really persistent paid off.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he could have easily thought you were like a stalker at some point, like
Yeah.
maybe he did when you saw him in New York because he.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm sure if you're famous, you get these emails, and I am so passionate and just like heart driven and just very open. I think sometimes when people first meet me, they can like, wonder if I'm not autistic, or like, I don't know. Sometimes people have described me in different ways, but I think it's like people, when you're really really open, sometimes can get defensive too because they're not used to it. But he's very open too. And I mean, on the phone talking with him after I got to know him, he's like, "You remind me a lot of myself." And like, it's like I think when you're famous like that though, you have to kind of have probably more of a wall up to be
Yeah,
careful, because yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've experienced that, but I mean, I've had situations, not even being famous, but being like somewhat notable, where
Yeah.
people people kind of feel like they know you, and you're just
Yep.
like, well, you don't really though. We're not really pals. You don't know me that well.
Yes.
But on the subject of your art, this was something that really intrigued me because it's something that has actually come up on the show before, and I always find this fascinating when I see it with an artist, is when you have um, a recurring character that is sort of like an alter ego, but also like a companion to you in another realm. And for you, that's this character Muhachi. So I don't know if you wanted to speak to Muhachi's history, and it seems like you've been drawing and painting him since you were a little kid, right?
Yeah, I'm honestly just amazed how much you know about not only are you saying his name right, but that you know about the character. Yeah. So my mom gave me this bear as a kid, and supposedly it was carved by the shamans in Canada. I still own it. It's like a soapstone bear carving. And at the same time, my sister and I were watching Indiana Jones, and there was like this statue in one of the movies. I can't remember which one it is, maybe Temple of Doom. And they call it like Muhaki or Muhachi, and we would sort of grab the bear and say it's like Muhachi or Muhaki, and like
Hmm.
that's how like this thing started to be born. I always say it's he was a character that was not created, he was born, because he sort of was given to me by my mother, and this thing was kind of crafted by other artists, and it sort of just came into my life. And then I started drawing the bear, but over time, because I never stopped drawing him, he changed. So like in the earlier drawings, he has sort of claws and these hands and these little legs, and he was a bear, but a cartoon version. And then eventually that kind of morphed into this bear with a cape, and he kind of had a jack-o'-lantern face with these angry eyebrows. As a teenager, I just made him like the Kool-Aid Man, and he would just run through walls. And the comics were very bizarre, where as a kid, when I drew them, it would just kind of go through with him skateboarding and then say, "Is this comic boring or what? Muhachi roar," and it would be like the end. They were just these really, really bizarre children's comics. Um, and then at Mass Art, they told me, because I was making animations, I have several animations with him. It's like old school Muhachi is what I call him, with the jack-o'-lantern face, and the angry eyebrows. They didn't like the character and told me it felt like he had no personality, and encouraged me during my reviews to stop drawing the character. And I loved Mass Art. I'm not talking down. In fact, it may have
Hmm.
even been good advice at the time to take a little bit of a break. Um, so I ended up just quit drawing him for maybe like 8 or 9 years. And then one day, for whatever reason, I decided I was going to start drawing him again. I remember the first drawing I did, it was like him with a cigar in his mouth, like kind of tethered and like up and moving again. Um, and then there was a point where I continued to just fall in love with art again. And I was drawing him so much and getting so into the art that I realized the character was me. And at that point, the character kind of reached his own enlightenment. And then his eyes change, and there's a sparkle of light in his eyes. And then the character became sort of a mirror or an avatar for me to express myself. And I would do a drawing each night. Just if I had a crappy night, I would draw him hunched over and sad with a little speech bubble of how I was feeling that day. I remember during the pandemic, he just said the F word. We can curse on the
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
He
Yeah.
just said like fuck, and he was like laying on the ground, just completely done. So I like to say some of them are sad and some of them are happy, but I want to create a cartoon character that's true to life. And that has a lot to do with Bakshi's influence with cartooning on me as well, and his push to make cartooning real. And that sort of went with all of him becoming this sort of poetic expression of also turning the paintings and the cartooning into a fine art too.
Yeah. yeah, I mean, and you can see this all kind of converge because I mean, you have the cartoons. Um, well, the newer works with Muhachi on a skateboard, kind of like telling your skateboarding story. You know? So there's a point at which all of this just kind of converges into one self-actualized thing, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I guess it's fun. While you were talking about his old expression, like the jack-o'-lantern face, I'm like, oh, those were his edgy years, I guess. Those are like his angsty teenage years, you know.
Yeah, and I mean all of that's true. Like when we were kids, we did things like as skateboarders and stuff. And I remember like driving and somebody like hitting somebody's mailbox, or I was like a teenager and you do crazy stuff. And then I always like think thank God I don't have kids because you
Yeah,
think back of all the stuff that you did as a kid, and it's like, yeah, I think it was that stage of my life which was mischievous, and I think the character really channeled that kind of energy too in the comics.
yeah, yeah. I'm always grateful that we didn't have social media when I was a teenager because I would have posted so much dumb stuff online. A lot of self-incriminating stuff, I'm sure. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was good to have some trouble to get into that there's no record of, as long
And
as you
also
didn't
to
get caught, I
and
guess.
also to grow, right? It's like
Right.
when I was younger, there was so many different characters that I was around. I mean, there was like fishermen, and I was in the woods, and then there was these skateboarders that would bring me out to the city. And to hang around with all of these people and get that kind of perspective, at a young age, I feel like it kind of gives you an ability to love because you see so many sides of yourself in other people. You see so much texture. You see so many different things growing up. And, when you grow out of it and you look back, sometimes I see people in the neighborhoods, and I think about how the neighborhoods shape people too. Like living in a city, you're exposed to so much more diversity and
Hmm.
education. And there's just so many different levels. But I always can see myself in other parts of other people because when you keep on growing as a person and striving, I don't want to say striving to be better, but just, trying to be your own personal best. And, when I was young, I drank alcohol and stuff. Now I don't drink. I was hanging out with someone the other night, and they they were smoking pot and tried to hand me a joint, and I was like, no, I'm good. And they're like, you don't smoke and you don't drink. And I'm like, I did that all when I was a kid.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I only drink decaf coffee, and it's like it's not even that I think they're bad or that I'm against it. It's just kind of evolved that way naturally. Like I quit,
Hmm.
I quit caffeine because my eye was twitching, and my dermatologist is like, I don't know if it's stress, I don't know if it's caffeine, all of these things, and alcohol. Something horrible happened in my life enough that I just had to quit.
Hmm.
So there's just so many things that I feel like with growing up. It reminds me of like when somebody went to see Joseph Campbell and they said, "What if I feel enlightened right now and I feel I agree with everything you're saying?" And he's like, "Well, there's one mistake. You might miss life." And I think that, it's to get a kind of a meaningful life, you kind of have to go through it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have thought that often. But I mean, when it comes to art, it 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 always amazes me. I think of like songwriters and songs that I grew up with. This occurred to me the other day while I was driving, and I heard "In My Life" by the Beatles, and I'm like, it's like this retrospective song, and I'm like, man, John Lennon was like 22 when he wrote this song. How
Yeah.
did he do that? You know,
Yeah.
um, and it's funny because I was thinking about, when I tried to write songs or poetry, that's almost like a cliche, is like teenage poetry, and people are embarrassed about the poems they wrote when they were a teenager
Yeah.
because you don't have the life experience yet, right?
Yes.
And but
Yes.
you try to like fake it, and it's very obvious. So,
Yeah, it's like cringe, right? And I remember seeing people read poems like that, and it's like, and part of it is like, it's naive, and then another side of it is so beautiful because the person, right, that's doing it, they're different after. Like you get up and you read it in front of somebody and you think it's great back then, and then you get older and you look back and you're like, oh, it's horrible. But that's all part of the process. Yeah,
Right.
I
It's a
totally.
necessary stage to go through. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, yeah. My first magic show was horrible.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like if you want to perform anything, like when I first started playing guitar, I got on a stage and it was terrible. I was shaking the whole time, and
Yeah.
but eventually I got good at it, and now I don't play anymore. But I'm not like,
Yeah.
you know, it,
You
we
got
are
past
people.
it.
Well, sort of, yeah, I guess. It's just um, it, it's like anything else. It's just one day it didn't appeal to me as much, and I wanted to work on my strengths and somewhere else, and try
Yeah, and
something else.
I don't mean
Yeah.
past it in the sense that you stop, but past that point where you were shaking and you were nervous and eventually you got comfortable with it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for my 20s, I was a performer all the time. I was always playing music or reading poetry. So I got very comfortable on stage. um, and every once in a while, I do miss that. I would like to, but the internet has become its own kind of stage.
Yes. Yes.
um, and it doesn't require me to load gear in or out of a venue at 2 in the morning. So
Yes.
that was a moment of realization for me once. Was there's a local poetry reading in Worcester, and there was a house band that used to play there every Monday. I think they still do it, but I remember it was like 7 degrees out one night, and I was thinking about, like, man, you know what I don't have to do tonight is grab a guitar and go down to that bar and load it in, and then at the end of the night load it all back out,
Yes.
because it'll
Yeah,
be
it's
even colder then.
there's
So,
a mentalist. He passed away, Max Maven, and he
oh sure,
walks
yeah.
he walks on stage with a few props, but he gives everything away and leaves with nothing. I just thought that was always like the try and aim for that. But yeah, the kind of management with the props and lugging things around, and then the ability to just like do a show from your living room, because Zoom magic is a thing now, and I want to do Zoom open studios. And I don't think it's like an end all where it's gonna get rid of live entertainment. It's like it's just another platform, another stage. When
Hmm.
uh, acrylic painting was invented, everybody thought painting was done and it was over, and just because acrylic dried faster. So it's just another amazing thing that an artist can use if they wish to. So, um, yeah, I've seen a lot of musicians doing like Zoom concerts, and I definitely like going live, but there's things that you can experiment with too. Like there was a theatrical company that was mailing for a magic show things in the mail, and people were holding these things, and the magic was happening in their house. Like I'm not saying you mail someone an instrument, but
Hmm.
there's ways where you can create everyone has a front row seat in these immersive, really deep, you can get really deep and meaningful even though it's technology, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to be creative and innovative with all of these different things, and then it's not like one's better than the other, but I think um much like you were describing earlier about trying to figure out how to make the candle disappear. It's like,
Yes.
how do you contextualize this different kind of media and still have that same kind of heart, that same energy to it that you want to impart to the audience.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I would much prefer a group of people, uh, I do like that, and it occurred to me in recent years that the only times I've done any reading or performing at all in front of people has been at like memorial services and wakes, and I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah.
I am good at that, but I don't. I feel like I need to find other opportunities to be in front of people.
I'm just thinking
Um,
about that, like digesting it. It's such an interesting place to start from.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, I did a lot of performing when I was younger, but it's just in recent years, it's like, if somebody dies, they want to hear from me. I guess I'm the one to
Hmm.
go to eulogize. So,
Yeah, well, you have a great speaking voice, and I love your persona. When I first started talking to you, I immediately thought you were a performer just by your look and your tonality and comedy. And
yeah,
yeah, I can totally see you being that guy. And also, it makes completely sense to be using your voice and doing a podcast too.
yeah, I think so. I've had a lot of people tell me I ought to be on radio, and I thought they were just calling me ugly, but yeah, it makes sense. And I was a guest enough times on podcasts, and eventually, it's all about learning new things, and I always want to be doing something different. So I wanted to build my strength as an interviewer, and I'm not quite where I want to be yet, but it's all still a learning process. So
Yeah, I like Ira Glass. I watched his video. The Gap, I think it's called. If anyone
mhm.
just searches The Gap, Ira Glass, and I think it was when he was first starting his podcast and trying it out, and just this idea that he did you work so hard and you get to this point where most people just quit, but it's just the people that keep pushing over that gap. It's kind of reminds me of the 10,000 hour things, which is a generalization, but I do think that like there's just something really valuable about doing and not wanting things to be perfect, and just following that process through because you become a better performer through it. Like you can
Yeah,
already tell that you've already done a lot of this stuff, and I imagine the
right,
first time you did it. So, and I had to
yeah,
interview somebody once and I had a difficulty time. Like I interviewed Jeff McBride once and I called him up and he would answer questions and I would just kind of like dead silent, like after he would answer answer a question, but it was for a book. So, no one
right.
was going to be hearing it, but I was kind of as I was doing it, just thinking like, wow, interviewing people, that's an art form in and of itself.
Oh yeah, I thought it would be easy, and the first couple times I ever did it, I was like, oh no, because sometimes, and it still happens. I mean, I still have guests sometimes where I'm just kind of transfixed by what they're saying, and then when it's my turn to talk, I'm like, uh-oh, what do I do? Deer in headlights here for a second.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that. That happens to me on stage, sometimes when I'm really putting myself on the spot, and I try to embrace the moment. I tend to a lot of times resort because I don't consider myself to be that funny to
mm,
honesty. Like I
yeah,
remember one time when I was doing the hat trick and just handing it out to everybody. It's like put something in here, and I'm gonna put jazz on and try and do a trick. And I reached in, and there was like a box of cigarettes, and I was standing in the audience was staring at me and I had nothing. Like I couldn't, I mean, I didn't even think like just throw it and reach
yeah,
some, I'd shake your head no and like I just was staring at it and full on just like froze. And I just remember saying to the audience, like, I've never felt so lost or vulnerable in this moment right now. I have
right.
no idea what I'm gonna do. And then I was like, wait, I think it's coming to me. And I went into a trick, but it's like I don't know if it's liminal space, but sometimes those are really good spaces to be in because you get too comfortable,
Mm,
it can be formulaic and you can lose a sense of sincerity with people. And um, I think the audience gets nervous during it. It's like if
yeah,
someone's going to go up and tell a joke and they're really bad, the audience definitely, you get that tension. But the more that I perform, I kind of feel like that really doesn't matter that much. It's more, I think, about the performer trying to get into those like through those spaces and growing. I can't think of how to phrase it right now, but there's something there. And I think it's yeah, it's a very interesting space to be in when you're outside of your comfort zone.
yeah. It's well, you're doing a tightrope walk without, so it's like you're gonna sink or swim when you're out there. To mix metaphors, um, So like and I think it's that improvisational space. That's why I always really liked open mics. I used to host open mics, and like anything could happen, so you had to be on your toes, you know.
Yeah.
And there would be moments where somebody would be struggling on stage, and if you're the MC, you could kind of help them. You could jump in a little bit, or you have these beautiful improvisational moments, and then you always have wild card regulars that would do something wild on stage, and you'd have to do something about it. So
Isn't there a light, like a light they turn on if back in the old comedy days where it was
right,
green or red, right? Isn't that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you'd have like the shepherd's hook that would come out and snatch somebody off the stage, like in the old cartoons. Yeah.
I guess I
Um,
just mean that like one time when I was studying mysticism and I was really, really going deep, I started to kind of feel when I was getting all of the wisdom that I wanted other people to have it. And like through the process, it's separating you from everybody else because you think that you're becoming enlightened. And then through that nature, you see other people and you think like, oh, I wish, they had this bit of wisdom so they wouldn't fear death, or I wish that they would have this. And then you start to realize that actually you're the one with the problem. Like you're kind of developing an ego thinking that you're outside of everyone when all you really needed to do was just let go and in the moment and accept people for who they are and not want to change them and find a peace of mind. And I feel like it's kind of that same way with a performer, like that tension with the person on stage that's bombing, that's coming from the audience, not them.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like as an audience member, my job is to just be comfortable with them being bad and be
right.
like, good job for trying. That's kind of how I look at it now. So I don't get uncomfortable. That's what I'm trying to say when I see people that are bad on stage. And I get a sense of like, wow, they're really doing it and getting past that moment. And I think maybe that's where we need to get the audiences at so that the performers can be more vulnerable and try out more new stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm just thinking about when you're the performer that's doing badly on stage. It's a journey the whole room is taking together, ultimately.
Yeah.
Because people may remember that, so that can have carryover effects. But like we discussed earlier, the person that's suffering on stage, they may quit, or they may take that as a lesson and modify what they're doing and come back next time.
Yeah.
But before we were recording too, we kind of mentioned a few names, and it seemed like there are people that can play with that dynamic of um, uh, uncomfortable silences or moments, or dragging something out. Like we mentioned, Andy Kaufman. I feel like that if it, as performance art goes, because what you describe a lot of what you do as performance art, which I can totally relate to, because I did wacky stuff on stage, uh, sometimes just impromptu or just to subvert audience expectations. but
Yes.
but yeah, I mean, do you have other influences like that, or you want to talk about Andy Kaufman at all?
So I don't know too much about him. I had seen a film about him growing
Okay.
up, and I'm kind of thinking of people like Warhol that
Yeah.
sent people into a movie and just showed like a film that was like white noise for hours
Hmm.
until they all left. I think that a lot of that comes from like my days at Mass Art with hanging out with people like my friend Eric Schoonover. We would one day take a balloon animal and throw it off the balcony with no helium and for whatever reason with the wind current it just floated up over the city. So
Hmm.
I'm a magician, so we made like 200 balloon animals and threw them off the balcony, and everyone was coming home drunk and they're like, where are they coming from? And we have photos of them dancing on the street and people were pulling over cars and grabbing them and driving away. So we would kind of like stir up a lot of trouble. We would go into the animation studios and we would prank call people with the soundboards and just, call up people and have Miss Cleo call them and record them. And then he would make animations to them. And then for like our art projects, I remember him just showing the animated prank calls. And, it was like there was actually like a to get into the apartment we lived in, there was buttons that you could buzz, and then people would unlock the door to let you in. But when they buzzed through the intercom, it was like a speaker. So you would hear the person say like, "Come on in," and it would be over the whole lobby room.
Hmm.
So we were like, let's make a radio station. So we went upstairs and we taped our room number down, and there was like a security guy down there and a big lobby with chairs where everyone would hang out, and we were like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to so and so radio station, our first song. And we started playing music, and we
Yeah.
just had it amp, we kind of hacked our way in. I think as a skateboarder, I like to hack technology and use things for things they're not used as, or like you said, like maybe have the audience enter an unexpected maybe opener. I was thinking it'd be hilarious to sort of have a magic show where the audience is sitting and they're expecting to see me, and then the curtains open and Teddy Ruxpin is just there holding a book and just reading like from the book.
Yeah.
I have like a kind of part of me with that kind of sense of humor, and I bring that into my magic shows. I mean, I'm very deep and philosophical, but every now and then I like to do something like that that's just bizarre or just from the unexpected, and maybe a different kind of comedy that people wouldn't expect. I probably shouldn't say this, but I had a really, really idea for a dark show where I wanted to have the curtains open. My friend Ken is really into dark and horror, and I'm not. So I'm like, how
Mm.
about this, Ken? How about the the curtains open and there's a noose hanging? And then I walk over to the noose on a stool, put it around my neck, and I kick out the stool. And then I'm holding a bottle of alcohol in a bag, and I kick out the stool, and the rope breaks, and then I'm on the stage, and the bottle's broken, and I grab the half broken bottle, and I look to the audience and say, "The good news is the show is going to go on." And then I take a drink from the broken bottle of the alcohol and say, "But the bad news is that I didn't bring anything with me. Does anyone have a dollar bill I could borrow?" And it's like it was just like it came to me, and then like one of my friends is like, "That's too dark, it's too much." But there's that part of myself that after a couple philosophical pieces of magic, I might want to have something absurd or kind of mess with the audience or just do something that I'm thinking of in my mind that maybe people wouldn't associate with my magic, but that's the fun of being a fine artist. You can just do
Yeah.
whatever you want. And maybe people think that they know you, and then all of a sudden they're like, I never saw this or saw him do something like this. Because if you're just doing the same show all the time, you don't have room to try that kind of stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah. I always like, you know, for my part, I don't like repeating myself. So as a musician, it would kill me to play the same set every time I did a show. And I always want to add new songs, and that worked against me a lot because
Yes, yes.
instead of having really well rehearsed tight songs, I always had kind of shaky songs,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, there's a professionalism with putting on shows that kind of demands that you have a well practiced routine. But it's nice to throw like a little wrench in there once in a while and kind of mix things up, I think.
I don't think it has to be that way. Like as
Yeah.
a skateboarder, it taught me that. Like you go to a skateboard demo, people mess up all the time. It's not a
Hmm.
perfect performance and they get back up, but it is a show and it is a performance art. So coming from a skateboarder, I think I saw it that way. I know Rodney Mullen talked about a new book that came out called My Rules, and it's all about like sort of rap culture, skateboarding, and graffiti artists, and how they don't want rules and someone standing over them telling them how to do their art forms. And Ralph Bakshi definitely was that way. Like he went totally against his and went with his own vision, his own way. No one makes films like him. And I think all these artists and all these different unconventional people show you that I think you just have to set the ground rules when the performance starts. So I come out to the audience and I say something like, "Thank you so much. My name is Joe Ledoux. I'm the animator of spirits." And I kind of make this little frog out of my hands. And then I tell people that whether it's my animated character on the walls, an animated film that I show you, or a piece of origami that animates and comes to life, or a story that I tell that moves you, I hope at the end of my show you feel a little bit more animated than you were before. And then I tell them a Vegas magician will blow you away, but I'm here to connect from the heart and pull you in. And I had a hard time as a performer when I first started magic. I had a magic show coming up at a burlesque show, and there was a snowstorm. And I went, yes, because my gig was canceled. And my partner, Ashley, was like, why are you happy your show's canceled? And I said, I got to rethink this. And I realized I'm doing it as an entertainer. I got to do it in art galleries, have my paintings up, be human. Spectators just spectate, they just watch. Audiences just audio, they just listen. But participants, they're part of the show. They play part. And I want you guys all to be part of this. There's a relationship. And I want a space where I can experiment, maybe fail, try something I've never done in front of you before. And then I say something like, is this a journey that you're willing to go on with me tonight? And then by round of applause. And then the whole audience applauses. From that point on, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well, I
know,
mean, once you get them on your side, you
but
can
I've established the
get
ground
away with a
rules
lot.
too. I mean,
Right.
some of them
Yeah.
might not be on my side yet, but they know what's coming. Whereas if I, yeah, but yeah, they're getting on board with me getting on my side. Yeah.
Right. Or yeah, at least piqued their interest enough that they're okay. Let's see what you got. So you're
And
always going to have people that are skeptical, and I kind of love those. I mean, I remember one time I performed at a church. It was like a church variety show, and I did a poem. I was famous for doing a poem of, well, I mean, famous. The one that I was best known for was from the perspective of Wile E. Coyote. And I
Okay.
performed that one because people loved that one. So that was just my greatest hits. There was this older gentleman that obviously had mobility issues that somebody dragged to the show. And he was sitting there just basically, he couldn't have been rolling his eyes any harder. And I think like when I got off the stage,
Yeah.
I could hear him actually say to his friend, he's like, "This is the crap you brought me to see." Like, well,
Well,
I
when
I
I
always I always thought that it's better to be remembered and disliked than for people be completely ignored. Like,
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. Like I
yeah,
really everything that you're talking about as a performer, I'm like, definitely we could be friends. I feel like you really get it. When Copperfield came in to teach us, one of the things he told us is that you'll only be as good as much as you dare to be bad. And by you having the ability to try those new songs out in front of people instead of just playing the top 40 and holding to what you knew, you're so much better than all the other performers that never did that. Like, even if you just go and just do your formulaic songs, you pushed, you felt what it was like to be uncomfortable in case you get flustered. Maybe you will just be doing a kind of standard set and the songs but maybe the sound goes down or something. And because you know what that feels like, you might be able to just go like acoustic, like just have everybody get quiet and know. I saw Bonnie Prince Billy do that. Like he jumped off the stage and just started singing out in front of the audience with no microphone. So
yeah,
it's like that's what it takes, I think, to be a really great performer, to really go above and beyond, is to have those be daring to try those things out and maybe bomb or have experiment and do a horrible show. Like you might learn next time I don't want to do that. I want to just structure a show. But if you have to get out of your head and test the stuff and try and get feedback and decide, okay, even though I experimented and maybe the show didn't go that well, but I was remembered or whatever, do I want to do that again? And like a lot of the stuff I do, sometimes there's things I junk and sometimes there's stuff I take. But the more I go, the more I feel like I'm just comfortable showing up being me. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't experimented, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. And it's all part of this unfolding process of
Yeah.
kind of becoming yourself ultimately. Um,
If one wants to go that avenue, I mean, I again don't want to make it sound like I'm dissing actors or character actors or people. If I got married, I would want a top 40 wedding band. Everybody has their best. There's the best entertainers in the world and there's the best artists in the world. Yeah, and it's asking, like you said, know yourself. Who are you? Are you an entertainer or an artist? And which one do you want to be? Or do you want to be a mix of both or play with it? But I think knowing the options, like you can brand yourself as I'm a magician, but I think George Carlin said that once he started like booking by his name and not a comedian, I'm Joe Ledoux. You're not getting a magician, you're getting a personality. You hire Joe Ledoux or a Joe Ledoux show. So you can be branded as a musician or as a magician, or you can brand by your name and your personality. That's also another thing to think about. So I think being aware of the choices as performers or as artists or anything you want to do in life, learning what you don't like and tasting, experimenting, and being like, I don't want to do this. I realized I didn't want to be a Vegas performer. I don't want to do the corporate stuff. The nose will, it's like the sculptor. You can add things on and sculpt something, or you can take things away and get to something that's really you or really beautiful. And, I think the taking away through the experimentation and then tasting to find out what you don't like gets you closer to what you want to do. That's personally the way that the path I've chosen. And that could be an
Yeah.
entertainer, you know?
Yeah, and I mean that's not, and it sounds like you did the thing that you don't want to do. So you know that you don't want to do it, but you've also gained the kinds of skills that are necessary for that, right? Like you could do it. You have you have that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I just
you've
went and
learned.
performed at a nursing home, and it really put me in my place because I just linked rings together and pulled them apart. And I did give them some philosophical stuff that I thought, would really make the show meaningful for them. And there's moments, you just feel like a fraud where these people are pushed out in wheelchairs. But I always, even though I have these artistic kind of dreams, go back and pay my dues or bring magic to someone that's in need of entertainment. Or, it's not like that's all I do, because you're right, I can do it. I know how to do a children's birthday party. I know how to like razzle dazzle a bar. And sometimes I do those things because it makes me a better performer, but sometimes it's not about me. I mean, as an artist, I think if you make something for everybody, it's for no one. And if you make something for yourself, it's for everyone. Because, if you just try and cater to somebody and write a piece of poetry to please the world, not going to do anything. But if you say like, I have bad acne and I feel like I can't go on dates most nights, and something like that, all of a sudden everyone's going to be relating to that, and they're going to be like, oh my
Mhm.
God, I'm not the only one. Like, I'm not alone. So I think, there's just those two spaces to play with. But yeah, I started by entertaining and doing a lot of these things. I mean, I never headlined a stage in Vegas. I never did a casino. I've never been on like a major TV show for magicians. Um, and I have a hard time with that. Sometimes I'm sort of like, should I go on a TV show? Like, should I go on Penn and Teller Fool Us? I have several friends that have been on it, and one time my magic teacher asked me if I wanted to be on it. So that's hard with me because I'm like, well, I mean, having said that, I performed with LeGrand David, which had the Guinness World Record for the longest running show in the world. And one time when I was
Yeah,
performing with them, somebody went on and filmed it. And then I think back, I'm like, wait, I have been on the news before. Like, there's things I do that I forget, but I kind of ask myself, like, am I doing this because I want people to see me do this? And if it doesn't sound fun to me and the time regulations and the constraints, I'm like, I think I would rather just do the art gallery show. But I did
right.
build up for a while before I pulled back, because Jeff told me to do that. He's like, don't pull back too early. Build
Mhm.
up and do all that stuff before you pull back. But I'm 42 right now, and at some point you have to take a stand. For like 38 years of my life, I did kind of the entertainment stuff, and I've kind of pulled back now to this sort of, with the experience, the vision of what I want to do, and I'm pulling back and kind of, like Rodney Mullen said, don't compete, create your own playing field. So I've created my own playing field now where I can just be my own best, and that's fun for me.
Yeah, and I tend to think that if it's fun for you and that enthusiasm comes through, it'll be fun for other people uh, anyway. Like you're not doing it to entertain them necessarily, but you're doing something that's true and honest and right, and people will respond to that. The right kind of people will respond. I find that like the people that are meant to appreciate it, or it will find them.
The
Hopefully.
one or two, three people in the
Yeah.
audience will come back to the next show. And then
Right.
eventually you have a show of people that like what you do.
Well, I'm no stranger to playing to an empty room, so
One show I did in LA, when we lived out there, I was trying to find a venue. So I was like, I'm just going to do it in the park at night. And I called it Magic Under the Moonlight. And I remember I cut the shirt up to look like Peter Pan because I wanted this mystical looking kind of coat. And I had this like pan that I catch coins out of and throw it in. And I'm like walking through the woods because I wanted to come out of the trail, and there was a full moon that night. And my girlfriend's down. It was in Silver Lake Recreation Center, and I'm walking like out of the woods, and she's coming up the trail where it was like a dog kind of like park, and there's like trails that go around where people run, and it's more of a pedestrian area around the reservoir. and
Mhm.
so I'm like seeing her, and as I'm waiting before my girlfriend gets there, there's like someone walking their dog, and they see me in the woods with this like cut up clothing, and it's this really rich neighborhood holding this thing, and they're like, "Are you okay in there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm about to do a magic show," and they're like, "Oh, okay," like they
Yeah,
immediately understood, but I just thought of like how sketchy I looked out there. And then I,
right.
I walk
Like a
out.
character in a David Lynch movie or something.
Yes. And then Ashley comes up, and I'm like, how many people are there? Because I'm so nervous. I mean, this was early on in my career, and I hadn't done that many shows. And she goes, there's nobody here. And at that point, I was so relieved because of the stage fright, but then like so happy, but then so sad that no one was there.
Right. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
double-edged sword. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've been in situations where it's kind of like intimate. That's kind of cool too, when you only have a small crowd and you can kind of loosen up a little bit and try something different with a smaller crowd. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Eh,
making the
eh,
best of it, right? And getting
yeah.
creative and
Yeah. And I mean, I liked what you had to say about doing kind of doing a show for old folks at a nursing home, because it's so you can get these ideas about entertainment as being something distinct from the art and reaching people, but sometimes entertainment is like all the people actually need.
yeah.
It's still a very
Yes.
important thing, especially for people that might be lonely or
Yep.
isolated.
Or
So
that want an escape, or to take some stress of the day away.
yeah.
Like even the clown doctors in hospitals, the kids are I remember reading a story where they were severely burned, and the clowns come in and they start sneezing out marbles and doing magic, and as this kid that had been severely burned was being bandaged, he was laughing, and that's how powerful the entertainment and the magic is as a distraction from the pain. In that
Hmm.
kind of situation, I would not be like, let me tell you this deep, meaningful story.
Yeah.
I would be like, glitter, fire, dove. No fire. Take the fire back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fire is probably not
Especially if they were
appropriate in
burned.
that situation,
Yeah.
that specific situation.
Yeah. Water.
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, it's important, and uh, uh, I think it's important for people to know in general that whatever little things you can do are, even not being if you're not a performer or whatever, if you're not a magician or an artist, whatever little things you can do to make people smile or think or feel something or connect on some level
Yeah.
is worthwhile. So, um,
And a lot of
but
things that I do are for the audience. I think say the entertainer gives the audience what they want, but the artist gives the audience what they need. And I kind of see my job when I see the people, like if someone has their arms folded, I might hand the deck of cards to get them to shuffle, to get them to loosen up. And people support what they help create. So suddenly they're starting to get involved instead of kind of sitting back. So it's like in a shamanic sense, there's looking at people and reading the room and sort of in a magical kind of spiritual way, I like to think too that kind of the synchronicities that happen on who I call up, that maybe that person, for whatever reason, needed to come up. And there's a piece I do where I have somebody think of a shooting star and throw an invisible shooting star in the air, and then I catch a glowing light from the air and put it in my hand, and it turns into a real star. And I tell them that magic reminds them their dreams and wishes can become real. And I hope their wish becomes real, and they leave with that star. So there's a lot of empowering the audience. There's a lot of trying to give the audience what they need, and a lot of trying to like leave the audience feeling animated and ecstatic and great after the show. So there is an entertainment element, but it's not like that's the like factor that drives me or drives the work that I do. It's more like I'm creating these magical pieces, obviously to be shared with somebody, but I'm not putting a filter on what I can or cannot do.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, you mentioned synchronicity. Have you ever had that kind of happen with magic where there was a performance that you did where like an audience member or participant had kind of like a spooky connection to what you did, or it just seemed like it was perfect in a way that you couldn't have planned?
I mean, these things happen all the time.
Right.
I was at a concert and this guy came up to me and he goes, "Is your name Joe?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "My friend Joe shot himself in the head after a campfire, and you look exactly like him. Is it okay if I give you a hug?" And I was like, "Sure." I gave him a hug. I don't know if he was crying, and then he left, and my partner Ashley's like, "What happened?" And I told her, and we are like, "That's so weird." Like, and I have no idea, like, but I didn't know if one of my friends was messing with me, who was at the
Mm,
concert and saw him, like, and the fact that I had the same name, it was interesting. It wasn't at a show, but like I've done a trick where I take a key and it rotates in my hand, and I remember I was thinking, what's going to be the closing line for this piece? And I was doing it at the Lauren Greeno house in JP. It's like this old mansion looking kind of building. And right after the key turned, a bolt of lightning just hit like right behind the building. Um, and then when I got my magic wand, I remember hearing that the wand chooses the wizard doesn't choose the wand. And I was using these black and white plastic wands. So I said to Ashley, I want to find a wand that the universe picks for me. And we had gone to my parents, and my dad had just gone for a walk into the backyard, and we were standing out on the porch. And as he came up from the trail that goes into the backyard, I said, "Dad, next time you go back there to the beaver dam," because we used to play on it as kids, and the beavers would carve and make all the sticks and the dams back there. I said, "Could you grab me a stick off the dam that I could use as a magic wand?" And he goes, "You mean like this?" And he reached behind his back and pulled out this like it's a little shorter than a foot, like maybe it's like 9 inches, and it's all hand carved by the beavers, and it looks like a Gandalf, like Merlin wizard wand because of the way it's
yeah.
chewed and carved. When people see it, they're like, "Where'd you get the wizard wand from?" And it's like that's what I use in my shows, and I tell the story, and it's this amazing kind of synchronicity. Are you waving the wand? Is the wand waving you? And just to ask the question and be open and have it appear. They say chance favors the prepared mind, it's like you have these synchronicities and they always happen as performers. I mean, I don't know if I can remember them all off the top of my head right now, but like there are things that just happen during the shows that where real magic shows up, where lights blink or you're doing a
Yeah.
seance. I mean, all of this stuff happens, or you hear a noise, and it is it's interesting. I mean, I think that they happen to everybody though, like even in our lives, not just to magicians. But one time here's one. I was at a show and this was crazy. So I was thinking, okay, I want to give everybody a gift. It was at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. And how many people do you get at these gigs? And they get like around 1,200 people. So I said, well, I don't know if I can create that many gifts, but I'm going to fold 1,000 cranes. So I folded 1,000 origami cranes. I forget how long it took me. And we had them at the door. So I think I did like 1,200, but so that people could get them on their way out when they were leaving the magic show. When I would do the strolling magic through the museum, I would tell them you can get, one of the cranes when you leave. So when I folded half of them, I'm like, I should really find out where this story comes from. So I ordered the book. I think the person's name sounds just like that game, but I think it's Sadako if I'm
Hmm.
saying it correctly. She was a Japanese girl, and she developed a illness from the radiation during the war, and she was in a hospital, and she was folding 1,000 cranes because in Japan if you fold 1,000, you get a wish. And I think she wanted to kind of wish to live. It's a really sad story, and there's a book about it. And I started to read the book, and I found out that when I ordered the book, I dropped the book on the ground, and I remember Ashley saying to me, why'd you drop the book? And I'm like, August 6th, and I might have the date wrong. I can't remember when the performance was, but whatever date that I was performing was Peace Day in Japan, on when they fold these 1,000 cranes and honor the girl. So it was just crazy to me that I would fold the 1,000 cranes, get the book shipped in, and I know the story with her is they fold half, she folds half, and then passes away, and her friends and family fold the rest. And then every day in Japan on Peace Day, they put the cranes around the statue they made of her that kind of immortalizes and makes her live forever. And I know I've kind of gone around in several sort of circles here with the story, and I don't know if it's holding together. But essentially, when I got the book, I had started to fold the cranes and read about it, and I was reading the story, and then I couldn't believe, like in the back of the book or something, it says like Peace Day was the day I was performing. So the fact
Yeah.
that that synchronicity just happened, and that gave me the courage to do the performance that day because I was so nervous, but then I could feel like I was part of something larger, that there was, Jung didn't believe in coincidence, but these synchronicities. And I don't even care if it's scientific. I mean, how does a bird know when somebody flies a pattern of it over that it's never seen before? They've done tests, like a shape of a hawk, and you have
Mhm.
these little chicks and they'll all run out of the way. Like, there's, even if you look at it as a scientific thing, there is, in my mind, there is something happening with this sort of archetype. My friend Rick Heath that I was talking about said an archetype is something you cannot be, and I really believe I'm meant to be a magician. It's something I cannot not be.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds that way. I mean, the story about the wand is great because it's just, it's almost like your dad performed a magic trick in
Yeah.
the moment when you were looking for the wand because he just happened to have a piece that he picked up.
Yes.
Yeah, and then having the date be the same as the Peace Day in Japan for that performance is that's a very moving story, really. I mean, you must feel kind of a connection to that story now too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it was and it was a really meaningful day because I was nervous, and I remember telling people the story when I was performing and telling them that I left them there. And sometimes, like, you're ready to give up, and then something happens, and it just gives you that push or that little sense of like mystery to kind of get you into that. I think the closest thing to a shaman in today's world is an artist and a visionary. And it
Mhm.
taps me back into that kind of visionary, mystical medium in a way where even your artwork, where do your ideas and your consciousness come from? And the more open-minded you are to the magic, the more magic you experience. So it doesn't happen every day, but every now and then you just have, whether you're performing or just in your daily life, these magical moments. And my sister had moments like that. Like, she was walking down the beach as a kid, and she just yelled out someone's name, and the person next to her was like, "That's my name." And she's like, "No, it's not." And she pulled out her license and showed her. And then there's an animation, I'll send it to you. You'll love this. It was my sister said that she had this horrible dream where she saw like a donkey and the dog wanted to attack it. And she told my mom like how frightened she was in the morning. So my mom was like, "I don't know if you should go to school." My sister's like, "I'm going to school." So she went to school. My mom took a dog for a ride to the town store, and then there was a truck with a donkey in it, and the dog freaked out. She brought the dog because she was worried about leaving the dog at home. And the
Mhm.
fact that the donkey was there and stuff. And then my sister came home and she's like, "Tell me what happened in the dream." And she was all freaked out because it was the only time she ever saw like a donkey in Hubbardston, where we grew up. And I made a whole animation about it because it was such a weird tale. She was always like the psychic one in the family. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, donkey premonition. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love that stuff. and I've considered myself a synchronicity generator because I run into that kind of thing all the time too. With your story was reminding me of this past summer when I did a presentation in Gettysburg about the Loch Ness monster. I was talking about the old story of Saint Columba driving the monster from the loch. And
Oh
when I
wow.
looked it up, I was like, the date that's associated with that was pretty much the day that I was going to be doing that presentation. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
how about that? This is like the 500 something anniversary of this event, you know?
Yes.
So, um, it's wild when stuff like that lines up because it's so the listeners probably will do a little magic right now, and listeners will have synchronicities off the back of listening to this conversation.
Yes.
Calling it right now. I've
That'll
done it
be our
before.
magic trick for the evening.
Yeah. Um, but we've been going for a bit, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the year 2013 when you cast a spell over Boston and your experience with conjuring UFOs, fairies, and sea serpents. So, how did that come to be?
Yeah, I I had heard that great magicians do big tricks. And I had just gone to see Ralph Bakshi talk in Ottawa, and he was saying that never let money get in the way from you doing anything big, and talking about how if you put your heart in it and the limitations can kind of force the creativity, you might be able to do something even better. So I kind of came back fired up, and I was standing at the bridge where Houdini jumped off. I think it's the Mass Ave Bridge in Boston. There's a plaque that Houdini jumped off here. And I was looking at it and thinking of him putting the chains off and jumping off the bridge. And I was thinking, what he did was a lot of showmanship. Like, it's not that far of a drop. I mean, I wouldn't want to jump off it, but he was in really good shape. And I was just thinking about the acting and being underwater and coming back up and the symbolism. And I was like, I need to do something big like this. So I wanted to go down to Revere Beach where Wonderland is and make a mermaid appear. And I was like looking up scuba divers and trying to think of like bringing everyone down and saying I could make like a mermaid come up and surface and go down. And then I was thinking like, okay, how am I gonna make sure that this is safe for somebody? You know, is someone gonna try
Yeah.
and shoot the mermaid? Um, and I was just kind of like looking at the constraints and the practicality of the illusion. And I thought about doing something with a fishing pole and like catching like a magical fish and having the line break. I wanted to just do like a big illusion. And at this time, I was still using gimmicks. I mean, as my career evolved, now I've gone, really purist. My magic teacher calls me a magical purist, but at that time I was still willing to kind of use them. And I thought, well, hold on a second. The pen is mightier than the sword. What if I cast a spell over the city and write like a piece of poetry? And I was reading Alan Moore, who was talking about how the word grimoire, like an ancient book of magic spells, comes from the word grammar. And, or it's one way or the other, I can't remember. But if you look at the etymology, it's connected, and that arranging words in the right order is spelling and it's grammar. So literally to write words is casting a spell and it's spelling. And I was like thinking, did Grimoire really, is it really connected? And I went online, I looked up Grimoire and I realized it had that etymology. I'm like, that's insane. So I thought I got to write a piece of poetry. Words are magic. And if I look at the local legends that were around Boston, like the first UFO in America was seen, I think, in 1639 over the Muddy River in Boston. And then I found out about the great American sea serpent that was seen around the same time in 1630 something. And I collected old newspapers. I have them, these block prints of like sea serpents that were seen off of Boston Harbor. It was called the Great New England Sea Serpent, and it was all around the same time. I'm like, this is so interesting. There's the Red Sox, but there's like right near the Fenway area, like there's this UFO or like story. And I was looking at the land and it was transforming it. I think it's called psychogeography when you know these historic kind of stories with the landscapes and they transform them into these different kind of spaces. And then it just started to kind of form. And I wrote piece of poetry on like a wizard scroll, and it was a spell, and it was about all of these old legends, but asking them to resurface again and then ask us to see new ones. And it was called Fortune Teller because it was for the month of June. So it was like fortune teller, but for June Teller. And then it was put in the local newspaper, the Boston Metro. And I had no idea they were going to do this. I had submitted the event and what I was doing, and they put it in the event section as a supernatural event. I still have the clippings, but I thought that was really funny because I was
Yeah.
wondering in the newspapers if that's ever happened before, a supernatural event in the event section. And yeah, people for 1 month looked up at the oceans and the skies and for fairies in Boston, and they reported what they saw on the website. And it wasn't until after I contacted the papers and said, "Do you guys want to say what people saw?" And nobody wanted to say what anybody saw. And I'm like, this seems kind of bizarre. Like we did all this and got everybody, but nobody wants to report on any of the sightings. So I kind of made my own posters of what people saw. And I think I did like a podcast with my friend about what people saw. And then it kind of got buried and no one really knew about it. And then Vanish Magazine did an interview with me with the original person that interviewed me for the Boston Metro that about what people saw and what happened, and that was published in a Magic magazine. It's like an anniversary, like 5 or 8 years after the spell or something.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'd like to read that at some point. That would be
yeah, I'll send it to you.
yeah, sure. Well, that is great stuff. And I mean, I guess just getting people out there looking is a magical enough thing, right? Even if but the fact that they were reporting stuff and actually seeing stuff is pretty wild.
Yeah, and
Uh,
you're spot on because my friend actually told me that he was sitting on his roof looking for UFOs and he didn't see any. And I was like, that's just cool. And then there were people that saw things like a light in the sky, and there was several UFO reports, and then there was also my partner Ashley, which was really funny. We were hanging out and we're like Scully and Mulder. She's the skeptic, scientific, and I'm like, come on, let's go look for the fairies. So if anyone watches the X-Files, still,
right.
if it
Yeah.
gets a reference. But yeah, and we were out and she's like, look at that insect. And it was like, it looked like a dragonfly with a shorter body with legs hanging down, these little arms and these wings, and it was anthropomorphic. And we did a little illustration of it and called it like I forget we were in Brookline. I think we called it the Brookline Fairy. And I think it was just an insect that we've never seen before, but it really looked like a fairy. And then I started to think about it and I was like, she was playing along and getting her into that magical space. I mean, when she's done interviews, she's talked about it because she's not that kind of person. And it really got her to kind of into this mystical kind of space. And the more I thought about it, I was thinking, well, if insects were all extinct and they didn't exist, and you told people about this soul and this little being that like this little creature that could fly around or a little ant that could crawl around, it's like the fact that there's consciousness and life in those things. I mean, and then the other thing I kind of thought of is like, where are the fairies? I mean, the further you go out into the universe, the smaller we become, and everyone's looking for a little tiny miniature person that's alive, but like we're that. And there's just so many different ways you can kind of see it. And that I
Yeah.
think was the great thing about the spell is it got people to kind of make believe, children just to see them in their mind and report them. It got people to see maybe comets or unidentified flying objects. They saw lights go by that could have been aliens. I'm not saying they're not. I mean, there was all kinds of sightings. And then um, it got people also in this in-between realm of kind of seeing the magic of what's in front of them every day. At least that's what it did to me too, as a magician.
Yeah, and that's excellent because nature itself is pretty magical, you know. Um, Other people are pretty magical, and just existence is magical.
Yes.
And you can go way out there with that, and people start to act like act like you're crazy if you talk that way. But if you can convince them by casting a spell over the city, then then well done, I guess. I applaud it.
Thank
That's
you.
good stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, since as we kind of like wind down here, do you have projects that you're currently working on? I think before we um, got to recording, you were talking about taking a little hiatus because you've done a whole bunch of shows recently, but
Yeah,
you've got projects coming up in the future.
I've always got stuff going. So I'm
Yeah.
working on several new zines. One of them is actually about house sparrows because they're my favorite birds. And I'm illustrating and creating a zine just about kind of the life cycle of them and how amazing those birds are. And then magic wise, I'm working on a version of the Indian rope trick, which I'm really excited about. I've been
Ooh,
working on it for years and it's ungimmicked, which I'm excited about. It's been really hard to think about how am I going to make a basket, a rope rise out of it, hold it and float off the ground, and then pull parts of my body off and throw them in the basket, come back down, and then restore my hand out of the basket that I ripped into pieces. And it's kind of this mini version of the Death and Resurrection show, but it's really close to the real thing. And I'm trying to really make the myth come to life. And yeah, I'm excited about it.
that's awesome.
It's
That's
a
a
piece.
classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's real theatrical and it's real mystical and it's got some music and I've got a story I'm developing into it. And I'm working a lot with this kind of sound that monks do. I think it's called Tuvan singing, where you sing multiple tones at once
Hmm.
to sort of get this rope to levitate and stay rigid. So it's got some real soul singing in it too, some mystical singing involved in it that's not easy to do, and that is something kind of uh, the fact that I could do it, not everyone can do it. So it was interesting to tap into that kind of part of myself through this the way that the trick is evolving. I think it's going to be one of my one of my well, I don't want to say masterpiece, but it's like one of the pieces I'll be the most proud of that I've created.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's very exciting. I love the rope trick. Like I said, it's a classic. Have you ever, by any chance, read the book Jadoo by John Keel?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I, I'll talk to you about that after. I'll send you a link and you can decide. But the Indian rope trick plays very heavily into it. He's going all over the place in, I guess it was the 50s when he was doing it, but traveling all over and looking for the Indian rope trick and how to do it
Yeah.
from magicians and fakirs and people in all different areas throughout the Middle East and into India. So yeah.
I'm familiar with the one that Richard Wiseman did, I believe. The Rise and
Mhm.
Fall of the Indian Rope Trick. Is it is
Yeah.
it is it in that kind of nature? It's
No, it's way more like an adventure story. Like
oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
so John Keel wrote a lot of like ultimately he's been remembered more as like a UFO writer, 14 writer, paranormal guy for like the Mothman prophecies was the one he's known best for. Jadoo was his first book, and at the time he was writing for magic magazines and like the Linking Ring and those old school ones, and men's magazines, which so it'd be doing like travel and adventure and intrigue stories.
Yeah, I
Um,
would love to read it.
yeah, yeah, it's a fun book. So um, now, if my listeners want to check out the stuff you do and find you online, how can they do that?
So I have a Instagram. It's just so my name is Joe, Joe, and then the last name is Ledoux, Ledou, like X-ray. So it's Joe Ledoux Magic is my Instagram. And then you'll see it's like the little character that I draw, a little green circle with his face on it. And you'll know you have the right one when it says the artist that skateboards and paints and blends magic together. And then
Yeah.
my website is it's just joeledoux.com. The website's good for sort of I have my art on there and my art I have like a gallery where you can look at my drawings and a promo reel to kind of see some of the magic that I do. That's mostly kind of something to just give people a taste of what I do when I'm trying to get book places. But I do use it a lot to just sort of share films, animations, and my art on. So it's a good place to go to just see my art. And then the Instagram is where I would really send people to kind of see like where the shows are happening, because that's where I usually post like when the next show is coming up, or if people want to see what I'm up to or the new projects I'm working on.
Yeah. And if they're somewhere nearby, they can book you too, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, awesome. Well, this has been a really fun chat. I knew it would be, and happy to have made your acquaintance. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, AP. It was really fun to be on the show, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
Oh yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.